Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about the laws of production. We'll begin with the short run. So, under the short run laws of production, we're going to look at the stages of production, and then we'll discuss the short run law of production. Let's look at the law of diminishing returns. Now, we need to understand that the law of diminishing returns is the short run law of production. This law states that as more and more units of a variable factor are employed, that is, you're assuming other input quantities will remain constant. A point will finally be reached where additional quantities of a variable factor will produce diminishing marginal contributions to total output. So this is the law of diminishing returns. Let me just elaborate a bit on this law. We need to understand that we're talking about the short run, and when we talk about the short run, we're talking about a period of time in which you have fixed factors of production and variable factors of production. So for this law, we assume that you can only change or alter one factor of production to increase output. So this is where the law of diminishing returns applies. So as you are adding more and more of the variable factor in order to increase production, while you're holding these other factors constant, that is the fixed factors, there comes a point where even when you're adding additional quantities of variable factor, it so happens that you have what are referred to as diminishing marginal contributions to total product. So that is when this law is said to come into play. Let's look at the stages of production. As you can see from the diagram, we have stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. In stage 1, we have what are referred to as increasing marginal returns, or IMR. Then in stage 2, even part of stage 1, that is beginning from point A up to point C, you have what are referred to as diminishing marginal returns. And then in stage 3, that is where you have negative marginal returns. Okay? So you have increasing marginal returns in stage 1, that is IMR. Then diminishing marginal returns, DMR, in stage 2 and part of stage 1. And finally, you have negative marginal returns in stage 3. So as you look at the marginal product curve, you discover that in stage 1 it is rising, part of stage 1 and stage 2 is falling, and in stage 3 it becomes negative. Okay? So that is what we are actually referring to. Then besides this diagram, there are explanations. Okay? You have TP rises at increasing rate up to A. Okay? So if you look at the total product curve, you can see that from point 0, that is from the origin up to point A, you have the total product curve rising. Then after A, it starts declining. Okay? It is rising but at a declining rate. Then after C, it just declines. Okay? So this corresponds with the marginal product curve. You find that the marginal product curve rises up to point A. Okay? Then it becomes 0 at C. And after C, it becomes negative. That is why you've got stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, where you have increasing marginal returns, diminishing marginal returns, and negative marginal returns. And for the average product curve, it only rises up to point B, and then declines after point B. At point B, it actually reaches its apex. It's 0 at point B. That is the apex. Okay. then it is positive as long as the total product curve is positive. So those are the points that we need to take note of as we look at the stages of production and how the TP curve behaves during the process of production. Okay? I hope we followed. Now we need to understand that for us to understand the diminishing returns to a factor, we have to refer to the graph, like I was explaining. Okay? And the total product curves and the marginal product curves, you find that they help us understand how production is like, okay, in the short run. For instance, when the total product curve is rising at an increasing rate, the marginal product curve and the average physical product curves will be rising. Okay, so marginal physical product and average physical product are rising when the total product curve is rising. When it is rising at a diminishing rate, the marginal product curve and the average product curves are declining. So that is how you try to explain what happens between the three curves, or among these three curves, that is the total product curve, average product curve, and marginal product curve. That is how they are actually related. So these are the curves that we've been talking about. We also have these explanations of the total product curve, the average product curve, and the marginal product curve. For instance, when the marginal product curve is greater than AP, AP is rising. Okay, so the essence of this part is just to help you understand how these two curves are related. I'm sure you can follow from the panel. Just go through and understand how they are actually related. That is the average product curve and the marginal product curve. Now, what are the observations that we deduce from the foregoing? The first observation is that a firm should not operate in stage 1, nor in stage 3. So both stage 1 and stage 3 are not ideal if you're operating as a firm. You don't need to operate in these two stages. In stage 1, the marginal physical product curve is rising. The implication of that is that each additional unit of the variable factor is contributing to output more than the area unit of the factor. Okay? So for each additional unit of a variable factor that you employ to increase production, you find that the addition to output is more than the area unit. So it is advisable that you continue operating, continue adding more and more units of the variable factor so that you increase production in stage 1. So it's profitable for the firm to keep on increasing the use of labor in stage 1. How about stage 2, or rather stage 3? In stage 3, the marginal contributions to output of which additional unit of labor is negative in stage 3. Okay? So the contributions are negative, meaning when you add one more factor of the variable factor, you find that you reduce the total output by a certain amount. So it is not advisable for you to operate in such a stage. Okay? So you do not need to use any additional labor in stage 3. So the best stage in which you can operate as a firm, if you want to produce optimally, it is in stage 2. So these are some of the things that you need to be aware of as you are involved in production. So you need to know what the law of production is. You also need to know the stages. You need to know what increasing marginal returns are, diminishing marginal returns, and negative marginal returns. And you should be in a position to tell where you're supposed to operate if at all you're to increase production. So these are some of the things that we need to be aware of as we're involved in production. So it's important that we understand production as it relates to the law of diminishing marginal returns. I hope we've understood what is involved in production, that is in as far as the law of diminishing returns is concerned, or the short run period is concerned. Okay, with this we end today's lecture. Bye.